Growing up, my parents had all these different sayings for all these different situations, but one that always resonates with me still today is every cloud has a silver lining. Now, do you know where it actually comes from? It comes from a John Milton poem called Comus, and it's from all the way back in 1634. Now, also, did you see Silver Linings Playbook? Now, by the way, it's one of my favorite movies, and I love that saying in the movie too. You know that last line? Sunday is my favorite day again. Today, Erica Psaltis of Silver Linings Rescue Ranch, she joins me. It may not be Sunday, but this one really is one of my favorites. Now, you know how some cities just have a special magic to them? Well, Bend, Oregon has that magic, and there's also some real magical people there too. Now, Bend, it's been named Dogtown, USA. There's a 4th of July pet parade. Dogs are just a part of the culture there, and residing in Bend are several great animal rescues. Silver Linings is one of them, and Erica is one of those magical people too. Now, what happens to senior dogs if they end up in a shelter or just without a home? Well, in Bend, there's a special place for them. Yep, Silver Linings. Now think about this. What typically happens when people go to rescuing pets? More than likely, it's younger ones that find a home pretty fast. Now, as Erica realized, but first I want you to take a moment and really think about it. These mature pets, I'm using that term now, are generally more calm, they're house trained, and they're just loving. And the way I look at it, it's kind of like having a grandmother or grandfather moving in with you. Their love, their kindness, and their experience just can't be measured. Erica's story, the background of these oldies but goodies, will definitely make your heart melt. And you're about to find out why this really is a story about silver linings.
For real, 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 for real. Got a bunch of furry friends and I love them all the same. I'm an animal lover, veterinarian is the name. Let's share some pet stories from heartwarming to strange, losses and games, from wacky to insane. For real. You're now tuned in to For Real with your host, Mark Kyle.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the For Real Podcast. My guest today is Erica Psaltis, and I really can't wait for you to meet her. Erica, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So what I wanted to do at the beginning, I wanted to pause a little bit because I want to get into your background, but I wanted to give a special shout out to a really good friend of mine. His name's John Springer. John is the one that really told me all about you and the great things you're doing. But even more importantly, well, not more importantly, but as important, he's the one that actually was the idea for me to do the podcast. So without him, one is we wouldn't have the podcast, and two is I wouldn't get to meet you. And John is a huge fan of you guys. And so I just really appreciate to him. I wanted to give him a thanks. And I'm sure at some point this summer you'll see him. He lives up there in the summer. But because of him, we got to meet each other. So thanks, John.
Awesome. Thanks, John.
Exactly. So Erica, let's get into it. So I want to, we talked the other day about everything, but I want to start over again. Let's talk about you, your background, how you got there, where you're from. Let's start whatever age you want to start at. Obviously, you're an animal person, but let's get into that and move forward and come into Silver Linings. And I've got a bunch of questions for you.
Okay, let's go.
Jump in. Tell me just talk about when you're growing up, where you came from. I know you're not originally from Bend, so let's go with that and then work our way to Bend. And, now that you're a rescue queen, let's hear about it.
Well, I'm originally from Olympia, Washington, so I'm still a Pacific Northwest gal. And then I actually went to school at WSU. I went when I graduated from high school. I went to WSU with the plan to become a veterinarian because I just love animals, and I just thought that would be a good career fit for me. And the chemistry portion of the prerequisites I couldn't get through them. So, and actually that's fine because now as I've gotten older and I've seen more about what that field is about and the things that they have to do, I don't think that would have been a good fit for me. But, so then I sort of traveled around a lot and went to graduate school, and, I just was a nomad for a period of time. And then I moved back to Washington and met my now husband, and he wanted to live in Bend. He'd always wanted to live in Bend. And I just thought, okay, well, let's just do it. And so we moved here, and that's how I ended up in Bend.
Well, and we're going to get into this, but when as I was doing my homework and kind of digging around, as I mentioned, even I don't know if the listeners know, but I went to school in Oregon in Corvallis, which it's probably about a 4 or 5 hour drive from you. But so it does have a special place in my heart. I actually have skied, Bend, and I've also gone backpacking in the Three Sisters. So I love it there, and it's such a great city. It's kind of a gem in Oregon in particular, because it doesn't rain there all the time too. So
It's a beautiful place. There's so much to see and do, and all seasons. It's really wonderful.
well, funny thing is, I was thinking about this. We're talking about silver linings, but I was thinking this is going to be kind of an info commercial for Ben too, because there's so much there going on that we can get into all that stuff. But anyways, let's get back. So you moved there with your husband to Bend, and prior to Bend, were you doing any rescue work prior to that, and then, or how did you get into it? And let's kind of go from the beginnings.
I wasn't doing it before I moved here, just because my life was so transitory and I wasn't in any one place at one time for very long. When I was in Washington, I did volunteer with a wolf sanctuary there, and I was doing tour guiding and event planning for them. Shout out to Wolf Haven International in Tenino. And I wanted to be more involved with animals, but I didn't always know where the starting point was.
Sure.
So, what actually got me got me an inroad here, was that I was working at a memory care, and I was doing the sort of programming and the life enrichment for people who are in this memory care community. And I was really encouraged to think outside the box. So I found this horse rescue in Bend that was really excited about having people come out to visit them. And so I would take people on outings. We would get up on the bus and we would go to the horse rescue. And that was sort of the start of me being involved in animal rescue in Central Oregon.
Well, first of all, I love the word transitory. It's a really good word. I love words. That's such a good word. I'm serious too, by the way. So at the horse rescue, and I know a little bit about this because we talked about it, but you were basically talk about the horses they got there, because they weren't the wild horses. I don't think you said they had any wild horses, but how did you guys get the horses? And there's a reason why I'm bringing it, because I remember after we talked thinking, God, that's kind of crazy. But anyways, talk a little bit about that, please.
So this particular rescue was taking in horses when people were surrendering them to them. Primarily, there's a huge problem here. I think probably any rural community, where when people can no longer afford a horse, which, I mean, horses are expensive.
Sure.
They will abandon them, or sometimes they can't take care of them and they don't want to get rid of them, but they will neglect them, not out of malice, just out of circumstance. So with this particular rescue, they were taking in horses that people were not able to care for anymore before it got to that point where they abandoned them on their property, or were going to have the sheriff's department intercede and come in. So we were hanging out with these rescue horses, and that was really awesome to just meet some of them. My husband and I ended up adopting two of the horses and a mini donkey from this rescue. So we were very involved with that. From there, I met my friend Cindy, who runs this rescue for horses called Three Sisters Equine. And we got to be friends. And then she started her rescue. So that was like another step into rescue. And then I don't really remember how I got into dog rescue, but from there, once you get into the rescue world, you just are stuck there and you are involved with all of them.
Okay, so wait a minute. So at this point now, you've got two horses and a donkey. So and then we're going to keep moving forward. And I'm going to start calling you the serial rescuer. But anyway,
yeah.
So you're working with her. Next step, where do you go from there?
So from there, I love all animals. I especially love dogs. Dogs are just, I don't know. Dogs are my creatures. And I think I started doing some stuff with a local shelter. And then I started seeing posts on Facebook of local dog rescues that were needing fosters, that were needing volunteers. And I started getting involved with some of the local rescues here in Bend. and I was fostering. I mean, in 2019, we fostered 19 dogs in our house.
Yeah, again, cereal. There we go.
I mean, to be fair, there were two moms with litters of puppies, so that
Okay.
like bumps the number up. But yeah, and then that was, I mean, I just kept getting more and more involved and made connections with people who, I mean, there's a rabbit rescue here in
Really?
Central Oregon. Yeah.
That's great.
Yep. And Embers, why I don't remember exactly the name, but it's Embers, and they rescue rabbits and they rehome them, and it's awesome.
Well, that makes sense. As a kid, all kids want to have, especially Easter time, right? They want to get the rabbits. I never really thought about a rescue for rabbits, but you know, whatever works.
Yeah, it's awesome. So that's how I got into rescue here in Central Oregon.
Okay, so now you're doing all these different things. When did I know the year, and we can get into that. When did you decide you were going to have your own rescue, and how did that happen?
Well, like sort of going back, I started taking in as what is called fospice. So it's like foster plus hospice
Oh,
dogs from the shelter. And these are dogs that still have life, but that probably will be very difficult to adopt out because of their age, because of concerns about health, etc.
right.
So I started taking in those dogs, and I first took in this dog in 2017, who we named Noodle, and she was this like little toy poodle, and it was exactly the opposite of the kind of dog that I like.
Noodle the poodle.
Noodle the poodle, yep, yep. And so they handed her to me, and she was so rickety. Like and the vet said, you're going to have maybe a couple weeks, if you're lucky, a couple months. And I was like, okay, we're just going to like give her the best life. And she lived for for just over a year. And she was just my partner in crime. We did everything together. I had a whole closet of clothes for her, and I just loved her so much. So then I thought, okay, seniors are awesome. And when she passed away, I took in another dog from that shelter, Mabel.
By the way, my dog's name is Mabel, just as an FYI.
I love it. I love when I get older dogs, and I always like to give them like old
Yeah,
lady names, or so Mabel.
yeah.
And it just went from there. And then what really started the rescue, I had sort of kicked it around, and my husband and I had talked about it, but I was really hung up on what kind of work it would be to establish a nonprofit. What do I have to do to file with the IRS and to file with the state? And that just seems like a lot of work. And then I have to find a board, and that just seems insurmountable. But then in 2020, when we were in the middle of the pandemic, and that was a really brutal fire year in Oregon, which I guess is just an aside, but it was brutal. And so everyone was just inside because the air quality was so horrendous. But the local shelter had this dog that they needed to hospice. And I said, okay. And I went to pick her up. And immediately the universe sent me a very clear message. It was the weirdest thing, but the universe sent me a very clear message that said, you need to call Nan about this dog. And I thought, Nan, my brother's ex-girlfriend that I have not spoken to in a decade, is who I need to call about this dog. And so I was like, no. But the universe kept telling me that. And then I started posting her on my Instagram, and Nan and I are friends on Instagram. And she was immediately there to like every picture.
That's cool.
And so I talked to her, and we, had a lot of conversation. And so she said, well, I'll give her a trial and see how she does. And I was like, okay, it's not going to be a trial. She's going to keep her for sure.
Yeah.
And she did. And then Nan was really the one who gave me the final kick in the pants and said, it's time for you to just do this.
Well, two observations. One is I have never heard, what's it called again? Hospice?
Hospice.
Hospice. I've never heard that term. I love the term. It makes all the thing. But the other thing is, with you get involved, and I mean this genuinely, by the way, is it takes a strong person knowing you're taking in an animal that's probably not going to be around very long, because you get attached to him and all that, and your time with him is really a very small window, and that takes strength. It really does. So probably the reason why I've heard about you guys is that you're doing a great job, just as an FYI.
Thank you.
No, that's true though. I mean, it takes a lot. And anyway, so now Nan now has your dog, the dog, and so where goes from there?
So Nan had Birdie, and Birdie, they were like BF. I mean, it really was the best fit. They were so great for each other. Yeah, that was, and unfortunately, Birdie only ended up living for 2 years. But I think if you asked Nan, she does not regret it for a single second. She wouldn't change it for anything. So I started the rescue. I started the process of filing for the paperwork with the IRS and with the state. And Nan made our logo, which actually it is Birdie. It's inspired by Birdie.
Okay, that's cool. Now I want to ask you, and there's always, this is not a loaded question, but I'm just dying to know. So tell me, Silver Linings Rescue Ranch, where the name came from. And not that there's an obvious reason for that, but is there more to it than that?
No, we kicked a lot of things around. I didn't want anything having to do with golden. People love to be like, golden things in their gold dogs in their golden years.
Right.
And I wanted to avoid that. So we were kicking a lot of stuff around. We were talking about like Second Chance Ranch, and we were talking just a lot of things with my husband. And Nan was really, she was so helpful, and I appreciate her so much. And I think she was actually the one who came up with this, that she was just like, well, you're giving dogs a silver lining, so why don't we call it that? We ended up choosing Rescue Ranch instead of just Rescue, because there is already, no surprise, there's already a Silver Linings Rescue.
Right.
But also we are, my husband and I live on a ranch, and we wanted to leave the availability that if we got to a point where we could expand out to rescuing other animals, including horses, we could.
So a couple things. In my thought, and first of all, Silver Linings, it speaks for itself. But then I got thinking, well, you've got older animals, so they're silver. I'm sure you've heard all this already, but it makes a lot of sense to me. And I was thinking, about this today, and I'm thinking, well, they're silver, so it goes hand in hand. And then one of my favorite movies is Silver Linings Playbook, and I love that play. There's that saying in there, Sundays will kick you any which way, but Sundays give you something. Now Sunday's my favorite day of the week again. And so, I was thinking about that last line, Sundays are now my favorite day of the week again, using the silver lining. So now for these animals, now they're getting a recharge of life and finding new homes, and you guys are taking care of them. So now that's their favorite day of the week too. So I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
At least that's my crazy mind working that way, but that's what it is. So I think it's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty great. I really love the senior dogs. I think they're really underrated, but I love them.
Well, and they, and let's talk a little bit about that, because when I look at your mission statement on your website and you kind of dig into that a little bit, because oftentimes if people go to a shelter or something like that, there's a lot of reasons why what you're doing, what you're filling a need that really needs to be filled. And so walk through that process of, people go in, they look at the puppies and all that kind of stuff. Can you kind of dig into that a little bit?
Yeah. And it's really hard. I will never argue with people about the cuteness of puppies. They are very
sure.
I love puppies, but seniors just have life experience that makes them really great pets. A lot of them are already coming potty trained. They already know sort of the rules of being in a house. They understand what they should do as a dog. So that's really, for a lot of people, that's nice, because the puppy phase that's really a commitment. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I just tell people, like, yes, you may only have them for a short time. And I have had dogs that I've had for a short time, and I wouldn't change it for the world. They just teach you different lessons. Puppies are going to test your patience, and they're going to, teach you about being creative, about solving problems. But seniors just teach you how to be present in the moment. And dogs already teach you that, but seniors are in a slower pace. And so they really just are about just being there and just enjoying your company and doing whatever it is that you're doing together. And that's one of the things that I really love about them.
Well, it's similar for humans. at the end of the day, with all that experience, the things you can get from a human, and then carries through. I think it makes all the sense in the world.
Mhm.
For real, 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 for real.
And we'll be right back. We are supported by PrepVet, providing stem cell therapy for pets.
As a pet lover, did you know your pet can benefit from the incredible healing power of stem cell therapy? Prep Therapy offers a groundbreaking solution taken right from your pet's own blood. Say goodbye to joint pain, arthritis, kidney and liver conditions, and more. They'll experience faster recovery, increased vitality, and extended quality of life without the need for surgery or harmful drugs. Put the wag back in their tail and discover Prep Therapy today at PrepVet.com. Save 10% with promo code FurRealPodcast, covered by most pet insurance.
Now you've decided to do silver linings. I'm going to get into it, but let's talk a little bit about Ben too, because you guys are Dog City, USA. You got all these other things. So there's all these great events, and it's such a great city and all the things they do. And I know you throw a bunch of events, and I'm bouncing a little bit, but I want to kind of talk a little bit about that and get back into. You've now come up with a name of that, but let's talk a little bit about Ben and how you guys fit into that, the environment you're in now too.
It's a great question. It took us some time to get established in Bend. Originally, when we started, we actually were pulling dogs from a shelter in Southern California. And I honestly, I don't remember how I ended up getting connected with them.
That's crazy.
Well, and it just came down to like, people didn't know about us yet. So where do you get the dogs for the rescue? It's
right.
You have to have dogs for people to know about you. So we were pulling dogs from Southern California. And while we were trying to establish ourselves here, I went around to all the vet clinics and let them know that we were here and what we were doing. 2 of our dogs early on came in from local veterinary clinics where the owner surrendered them, these senior dogs, to the veterinary clinic. And they called me and said, can you take these dogs? And so we did. They were both dachshunds, actually. But one of them was diabetic. And so she ended up just living her life here on the ranch, Annie. And the other one was our first adoption, was this sweet long-haired dachshund named Mr. Bojangles.
Great name.
He was our first adoption. So now we've become, in the time between when we started in 2022 to now, we've become more established here. More people know about us. We've gotten our SEO taken care of on our website so people can search for us.
Right.
But now people will contact us directly when they have a dog that they're needing to surrender.
Well, yeah. And let's talk about needing to surrender, because what happens oftentimes, there's a big difference between a horse and a dog.
Yeah.
And so kind of talk about what kind of dogs, when people are surrendering the dogs, why they're doing it, and how you end up getting them. And there's a variety of reasons, but can we go over that a little bit so people understand exactly how you end up getting the dogs?
Yes. And I'm so glad that you asked. I think that it's really easy to be, and I will 100% say that I did it too, to judge people who are surrendering their dogs. It's really easy to be like, I would never do that. I would rather live in my car than give up my dog, whatever. The reality is that life is so much more complicated and messy than that.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you have a situation where you have a dog that you can't have in your apartment because of breed restrictions, and your choice is either to like make yourself and your dog, but also your children, homeless so that you can keep the dog, or to find a safe place to surrender the dog to, it becomes more complicated then. So it's the same with the senior dogs, and people like to be really judgmental of people who surrender senior dogs. Oh, I can't imagine a dog that I had my whole life, I'm giving them up. I would never do that. That's the favorite phrase. A lot of our dogs actually come to us because their owners are older and they're moving into an assisted living or a memory care facility that they're not allowed to take their dogs. And their family is not able or willing to take the dogs. Sometimes the owner has passed away.
Right.
And the family's not able to take care of the dogs. So for us, that's the vast majority of the dogs that we get, is because of a situation like that. Health-related reasons for older folks that own the dogs. Sometimes it's pretty uncommon. Sometimes we get them for reasons like allergies or We sometimes get dogs that are strays from our local shelter. They call us if they have seniors, but it's always more nuanced than I think people like to realize.
I would also think, you can answer it, but I would think too that people who have best intentions sometimes, and then you get an older dog, and their vet bills start getting too expensive, and they really can't take care of the dog the way they'd want to because they can't afford it because they're on a limited income,
Mhm.
and that would be a horrible thing to have to do. But sometimes you have to, like you were saying, take care of your family, and if you can put them in a good environment, which obviously you are, that would be another reason, I'm assuming too, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's just any number of reason things are getting more expensive. I mean, you don't even need to be like political or weird. That's just the fact, right? Things are more expensive now.
Right.
So that includes veterinary care. It includes daycare. It includes boarding for your dog. All of those things that surround pet ownership, and it's just getting more expensive. So people have to make choices. And unfortunately, for companion animals, they often are the ones who are the first to be cut.
And I'm sure it breaks people's heart, but sometimes you've got to make a responsible decision. So, again, I like the way you said it. It's not that you're trying to judge people because sometimes you just have to make that decision. So, it's hard not to judge people, but it makes, sometimes you just have to make a decision in your family or the animal. And if you can get them in a good environment, you're not making an irresponsible decision whatsoever. You're making a responsible decision.
Yeah, and if we have the resources to help that pet, if we can afford to send that animal to get imaging that it needs or to see a specialist, then that's better for the dog.
Absolutely. Quality of life.
Yeah, and so I appreciate that people are honest with themselves and they say, I'm not providing the best life that I can for this animal, and I know that somebody else could.
Okay, so let's bounce back. Sorry, I should have forewarned you. And I usually say it, my mind it bounces everywhere. So I want to get back to the beginning days. Now you've got your dachshunds, you've got Mr. Bojangles, which I love that song, so it's my favorite name already. But anyways, going forward, you're still getting at this point. You're still getting the animals from Southern California, or you're now at this point starting to get some from the local area as well.
That took a little bit to get the local areas. I mean, the local vet, there's some vets that really embraced us and that contacted us every time. And then of course the two veterinarians that were the first ones to call us and say, we have these senior dogs, they continue to be in touch with us and to contact us about dogs that they receive. But it took probably 2 years
Hmm.
of we would pull dogs from California, and then we would start seeing more surrenders in this area, or even requests from other shelters that are in Oregon. So Marion County or Multnomah County would contact us about animals that they had. So it just took a little time to get us established here, but now we get plenty of contacts from people locally.
Probably more than you need at some point.
Yes.
Then, that's what happens. So again, moving forward a little bit. So now all of a sudden people are starting doing that. By the way, did you get a lot of dogs after COVID? Because what down here, everybody and their brother adopted dogs, and a lot of people shouldn't have one because they were stuck at home all the time. And then as soon as COVID, started getting easier, all the shelters and here in Austin in particular was overflowing with animals because people brought them back. They weren't really suited to have animals. So that happened here. Did it happen up there as well?
It did happen up here. I didn't experience that so much. I don't think I've had any people, they've not said to me that that's the reason that they need to surrender their dog.
Right.
But I know other shelters and rescues in this area dealt with that influx. Yeah.
So what's the youngest dog typically? I mean, obviously it's estimated, but what do you think on your average age of dogs? What are you normally getting there?
So we cut it. It's not a hard cutoff. We take dogs that are 7 and older,
Okay.
but it's, the age is different for every breed. A 7-year-old Chihuahua is at a different point in its life than a 7-year-old Great Dane.
Right. Well, Great Dane, that's about a year left.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, we have some wiggle room there, but that's the goal. 7 is kind of an age where you're moving from a set of health issues that are like puppy related, about making sure that all their vaccines are established and dealing with any like potty training issues and all that. And you're moving to things that you have to be concerned about with an older dog, like arthritis, right? Like the possibility of cancer, hearing loss, vision loss, sort of a lot of the same things that humans experience when they get older too.
I feel it every day. Anyways, so you've got these dogs. So when you started this thing, let's just talk about doing a rescue. So you get the idea, you come up with a name, you establish yourself in the community. So you now have dogs. What has been the biggest challenge for you? I mean, I can think of one of them right off the bat. I bet you're going to say, but what's been the biggest challenge and what's been the big lesson and would have been aside from I know what the benefits are. We don't have to get into that, but so what are been some of the challenges you've had?
Our biggest challenge still is name recognition and being like people knowing who we are and what we do, right? So
Right.
obviously I'm fully immersed in what we're doing. I'm living, breathing, eating, sleeping, rescue all the time. And so for me, it's hard to realize that other people don't do that with this rescue. They don't know. So that's been one of our biggest ones. We just had an event recently, and we put a lot of money and some time into advertising it in the local papers, and it was on Facebook. We put up posters around town, all of that stuff, and I still felt like our turnout was better this year, but it could have been even bigger. So it's trying to get out there is hard.
It's never fast enough. It just isn't.
No, and it's hard to know where are people getting their news? What's the channel that we need to go through?
Right.
So that is the challenge. And then, coming along with that is that when you have no or very little name recognition and people don't know about you yet, then you don't have people coming to adopt. You don't have people coming to donate. They find you when they need to surrender a dog.
Yeah.
But it's hard to get people over the hump with adopting an older dog.
Well, you also do foster out too, right? So let's talk about everything you guys do too, because we didn't really get into. I know you're taking in the dogs; they can live their forever great life with you. But what are all the other things that you guys are doing there?
So we're actually a foster based rescue. So they go into foster. They don't all live with me. That will definitely lead to a divorce. But they go to foster. We also, one of my goals, and we haven't really been able to do it as much as I would like to, but one of my goals is to start conversations with people about making a plan for their pet, and having there be something in place instead of just assuming that if you pass away, well, I mean, everyone will pass away, but when you own these animals, if you were to pass away, who's going to take them? And so not just assuming that your good-hearted neighbor or your kids or your friends, because that's not always part of somebody's life. So,
Right.
Figuring out estate planning, we do send all of our dogs home with their adoption packet, and it includes a pamphlet from a local attorney here in town who specializes in estate planning, including for pets. And she has a special trifold just about that. So we want people to talk about that.
Well, that's cool. I've never heard of. I talk to rescues all the time. I've never heard of that. That's smart. I like that idea.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be something complicated, and you don't have to wait till you're old. One of our supporters is, in her 30s, but she has a life insurance policy that her parents understand. She's established that the life insurance policy, if she were to pass away, goes to taking care of her dogs. It's basically the estate. It's her dog's estate for their care.
That's great. I love that idea. Now, what was the name of the dog? I know you have a calendar you do. What was the name of that dog? The yawning dog? What was that name?
Oh, Niblet.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit. I want to tell me some of your stories about some of the dogs, but let's talk about Niblet and a couple more, and then I want to get into all the events you have coming up and all that other stuff.
Yeah. So, Niblet is one of my personal dogs that we took in 2019. She was rescued from a hoarding situation and she was just terrified. I mean, if you've ever met a dog who's from a hoard, it's terrible. They're so scared. So she spent so much time hiding under my bed. And then the pandemic happened, which actually was great for her because we were just home all the time to spend time with her and to help socialize her and get her used to us. So she was doing really great, and she was coming out on her own by herself to the living room area, and that was awesome. We were seeing such great progress. And then in 2023, we aren't sure what happened. My husband and I were both out of the house, and I came home, and Niblet was just sitting in the kitchen, like just not moving, which was not normal for her. And I picked her up, and it was very clear that some sort of event had happened in our home.
Like a seizure or something like that?
Well, yeah, we don't know what it was, but
Right.
but basically it meant that she had to have both of her eyes removed.
Wow.
Yeah. So, we thought that would be a huge setback for her. Like, we thought all the progress we had made, now she's lost her vision. We're not gonna ever see her again. She's just gonna be hiding all the time.
Right.
And actually, she became more fearless. She comes out and she's so sassy, and she figured out, I have one of those little staircase things to get up to the bed.
Sure.
And she had used that when she had vision, but she figured it out again when she was blind, which was pretty great. So she's just the boss. She's the boss.
But let's talk about the yawns and the calendar, because I think that's awesome.
Oh, yeah. So we've been doing this for, I don't know, a decade, where we will do photo calendars, and I send them to my family, and we sort of change who is on the calendar. So we started with Niblet being on the calendar 2 years ago when she lost her vision, and we just made all these like funny pictures of her wearing sunglasses and hats. The calendar for this year is her yawning, and every time she yawns, she looks like she's laughing really hard.
That's great.
And so we made the calendar where we took pictures of her yawning, and then we put the text of a dog joke on every month, like a bad, a dad joke.
Everybody who listens know all about bad dog jokes on this show. Trust me.
Yeah. So it's funny, and it's just like a way to just be light and
have fun with it. That's the whole point.
Yep.
So one of the things I wanted to ask you, and I want to get into your events, is it you that comes up with all the names? Because I think whoever's doing that, and it may be a team effort, you guys are really good and clever. I love play, obviously for real, but I love the play on all the different things. So I think you guys, you're really figuring it out. From my perspective, at least, I love the name. So who's that? Is that you, your husband, or a team, or who's doing all that?
It's really a team effort because, you sort of can reach a limit to your creativity, but also, I'm sure that people will understand you hit, not so much hitting a wall. You think your brain thinks of something, and then you just get stuck on that. And so it's hard to then move past that.
Right.
And so one of the things that's great is that I have a board of people. I have friends that I can throw things at, and they can give me ideas back. And it just sort of, that's how it sort of happens, is like an organic progression.
You mean the dreaded board when you were going to start your nonprofit, that board?
Yeah.
That thing. So
yeah.
Let's talk about your upcoming events. I wanted to ask you a question too, because you were talking about trying to get your name out. I know you guys have the 4th of July pet parade that you guys do in Bend. I know it's a real big event. Do you guys participate in that thing?
We haven't before, but I would love to do that. It always depends on what the availability is of our fosters.
Yeah, it would be cool to do, because you guys have your own banner and everything else that educate. And I think, well, me personally, I know for a fact, you got the old seniors. You could really play on it and dress them up like old guys doing something. It'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, and actually, it was really cute. So we just had our senior dog prom.
Oh, I love that name. By the way, another good one. See, you guys are doing good.
On the 31st, and we were doing like a Western theme, and a lot of the dogs came dressed up kind of as you would expect. They were dressed up with cowboy hats. The people who won best cutest couple, she was dressed up as Miss Kitty, and he was dressed up as Matt Dillon.
Oh, that's great. I love that.
He found like a little gun holster for a dog.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So cute. But one of the dogs that came was dressed up. I don't think it's necessarily trying to look like an old lady, but she was dressed kind of in that pioneer headset, like when you see women.
Yeah, the old
on the trail, and they've got like the kerchief over their head, and
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it was really, really cute.
That's so cute. And for you guys that listen that aren't from Bend, so the eastern side of Oregon is the dry side, and it is kind of like your western side too. And so you guys are kind of a country town, not really, but kind of sort of have that country flair, anyways.
Yeah. Yep.
So let's talk about the upcoming events you guys have. I know this is being released the weekend before or the week before a big event. So let's talk about the ones coming up, and let's get some more people to come out and check you guys out and do all the things. So what's coming up?
Yeah. So on the 21st, which is Saturday, we have what's been really great is that both of these events are being hosted by somebody else. So I've not really had to do the work for them, which is really nice. It was a nice break after prom.
Right.
But we're having an event that's being hosted at Dr. B Med Spa in Bend. And it's going to be, we're trying to kind of go for like a carnival feel for it. So we're going to have games to play for kids. We're going to have a pool for dogs. We're working on all these things, but we're working on having like a little, not an agility course necessarily, but like an obstacle course, a photo booth, a silent auction. And I think those are the big things. So that's going to be really fun. 12 to 3 at Dr. B Med Spa, which is on Wall Street in Bend. And we'll have adoptable dogs there.
Cool.
And then our second one is happening at Chiba Hut, which is on the west side of Bend, up on kind of like Simpson. And they have, and this is something they do every year. It is their, what do they call it? The Dog Days of Summer Market.
I love that.
Yeah. And they, so they'll have a bunch of vendors that are dog related. So we'll be there with adoptable dogs, but they're also going to bring vendors who are mostly local, and they're selling things like dog CBD products, or they have a whole market of things, but we'll be there with adoptable dogs, and there'll be a couple other of rescue, maybe not rescues, but like camp will be there. They're a companion animal medical project. So it'll be a lot of fun. It'll be a dog friendly, and they have good food, and it's just fun.
I bet you guys have already done this, but I'm just out of curiosity because I know there's a lot of breweries up there. Have you guys done not a pub crawl, but a pup crawl where you can go from one brewery? Because I know everything's dog friendly up there. So you could do a pup crawl where you go with your dogs from one to the other one.
Yeah, we haven't done that. So HISCO, which is our local Humane Society of Central Oregon, does a pup crawl. And I don't want to step on people's toes,
sure.
Right? I don't want to like steal their ideas. And so I'm trying to establish us doing things that are not competing, I guess.
Well, that makes sense.
But we do like to take the dogs, and I encourage people, fosters, to take their dogs to places like the tap rooms. We have a lot of tap rooms in Bend where you can go and take your dog, and they have food carts. And then also, you can buy beer on tap, or kombucha or cider or whatever.
Right. Okay. So one thing too, before we get to your favorite joke, let's talk about how everybody finds you. It's in the description of the episode, but let's talk about it for people that aren't going to go to the description, how they find you, social media and all that kind of stuff.
Excellent. Yes, we are on Facebook and Instagram, Silver Linings Rescue Ranch. We also have a website, so they can go to that. silverliningsrescueranch.org is a great way to see what we're doing. We're on Pet Finder, so if you're looking to adopt and you type into Pet Finder that you're looking for a dog from Silver Linings, they will pop up for you.
So are you guys looking for volunteers? Obviously everybody that's in the rescue world is looking for funding as well, but what other things can people do to help you that would be really beneficial to you guys? And also anybody that's, I guess, interested in fostering as well too.
Yeah. So we always need fosters, whether you want to be a long-term foster or short-term foster, like a respite foster. We have different varieties of fostering. So we always need fosters. We always need volunteers. We always need funding, but we also just need people who are interested, that have maybe connections and that are interested in making that connection between us and the person. So we could really use a like a CPA or somebody who wants to do our books. Because I'm doing them right now, and I'm ready to hand it off to somebody else.
I would have been day one.
It's not my strong suit. People who want to help with events, who have experience with event planning, people who are good at organization. We're looking for somebody who's interested in helping with foster coordination, adoption coordination, because I'm doing really all of it. And on top of running the rescue, like I don't pull a salary from this. So I also work and have my own dogs, as you heard.
Yeah.
So
We won't say hoarding on you, but we know you have a lot. Let's just put it that way.
well, we have dogs, and then we have horses, and we have donkeys, and we have the pigs, and so we got to take care of all of them.
Hey, do you do? I've never asked anybody this. I was thinking about where we're talking. Do you guys do? Is there such a thing as like a foster sitter? So, as an example, I've got a foster dog that I'm going to have maybe until the end of life, to the the Rainbow Bridge time. But if I have to travel and I can't take the dog with me, do you have people that come in and actually help them take care of the dogs through that versus them having to hire somebody to do that? Do they do something like that? Is that available?
Yeah, what we try to do is leave a couple of our fosters open at any one time so that we can have them transfer the dog over, so that if you're going on vacation for a week,
Right.
They can go stay with this other person
Right.
for that period of time. We try to do that. We also have a really great relationship with a business here in town, Wag Bend, where they foster a dog for us, one dog at a time. But then they also, have taken our dogs when we need just a short term, somebody's going on vacation.
Cool.
We just need a week of coverage. So that's kind of what I was saying when we need fosters of all varieties. If you're only able to be available to take a dog on when somebody's going on vacation or somebody's needing a break, then that's great. We need those temporary fosters.
Yeah, it's kind of for somebody that doesn't have the capacity because their job requirement, whoever can't really take a dog on full time, just to be able to help out. Everybody's, for the most part, everybody's an animal lover, so they can even give a little bit. Giving a little bit is a lot sometimes. So that would be pretty cool. Okay, so you're going to tell the joke, and for everybody that's listening out there, I just wanted to do a precursor. For once, I'm not telling it. If you haven't listened to the show before, we always have a silly animal joke. But just for everybody listening, we always love volunteers. So if you've got grandchildren, nieces, nephews, your kids, or if you want to be on the show and tell a silly animal joke, if you'll email me at mkyle@forrealpodcast.com, I promise you will be so fast return email, because I'm always looking not to do it. And a lot of my guests are just cringing every time when they hear my joke. And of course, I'm assuming Erica's going to be way better than mine. So maybe better than mine. Now I set you up. So anyway, so what's your joke?
Why did the poor dog chase his own tail?
Why did the poor dog chase his own tail? I don't know why.
He was trying to make both ends meet.
Oh, I like that one. That's a good one. That's way better than the ones I tell. And I'll save one offline to tell you one. But no, that's a really good one. That's great. Anyways, first of all, thank you so much for being on the show. I just want to tell you, I think you're doing a great job, especially, it takes a strong person, like I said earlier, to really look at these senior guys and really take care of them. And you're doing a great job. So thanks so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
There goes my dog. Always wants to be on, get her attention. So anyways, that's my Mabel. But anyways, for everybody else out there, please keep listening, pass the word on, follow, do all those things, social media, whatever. The more people that follow, obviously you guys make a big difference, because we're able to get good guests like this, and the word gets out, we get to grow, and we do all those things. But most importantly, from the bottom of my heart, thanks so much for listening. For real.
That concludes this episode of For Real with your host, Mark Kyle. For previous and future episodes of For Real, listen via all major podcast streaming sites.
This is your before and after story, where your first steps towards a new life-changing career begin. Southeastern College can take you there. We offer in-demand hybrid and online programs with hands-on training, led by in-field career professionals, and career services to put you on the path to a rewarding and fulfilling future. This is where your transformation begins. Southeastern College, your future is bright. Visit sec.edu to get started.